you're happy with however things shake out, just as long as you are putting your best foot forward.
Yes.
So it's like, as long as I'm trying, whatever the universe throws at me in response, cool.
Right. As long as I am making the decision for the right reason, like I can be joyful with that however it turns out.
I love that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like as adults, we don't go through the same level of developmental changes physically as children do. But we go through so many psychological, spiritual, philosophical transformations. Like what we lose in physical development, we gain back in this metaphysical development.
You're listening to Catharsis Sessions. I'm Dashiell Wolf. The methodology we're going to be using today is Catharsis Method, a tool and a ritual for healthy emotional processing designed into a deck of cards. You'll see those on the table as we go through. And my guest today is Sierra, a very warm, wise, and charming friend of mine. She's a kindergarten teacher at Down to Earth Nature School, a nonprofit built around connecting children with the natural world. She's also a very talented writer and poet, publishing her work on Substack and performing at storytelling events around Salt Lake City. For our session today, Sierra wants to take a closer look at a fear of commitment she has observed within herself, understandably as she's on the edge of making some big life decisions, which graduate school to attend, which career path to follow. She's doing the work, and she's making sure those decisions are going to be made for the right reasons and in a way that still makes space for fun in her life. The following session is wise, refreshing, and very down to earth. Let's begin. Okay, well, thanks for sitting down with me. This is exciting.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're somebody who I would love to do the cards with because we talked about this last time we hung out, actually. The first time, we met and we talked, I had this impression that you're very down to earth, very easy to talk to. And so if I were to guess, you seem like someone who'd be very emotionally intuitive.
Oh, yeah.
And that this is kind of like right up your alley.
Totally. Well, and I love card decks. I love like conversation cards. I bought this as soon as I found out about it because I'm like, I want to use this at home. But it's funny you say that because the school I work for is Down to Earth Nature School.
Oh, really? Oh, that's so perfect.
I think it's like a reciprocal process. Like I become more down to earth working there. And
You aced the interview, didn't you? They were like, the one thing, she's down to earth.
She's down to earth.
You're hired. Yeah. I'm very much the same too, though. I'm a visual learner, and I kind of need like tactile things. Yeah. And one of the kind of the impetus of this was I was doing therapy at the time, which I love. Yeah. But I would walk out of therapy feeling great and not knowing why. And I was like, I need to understand on paper. Like what's happening, that way I can replicate it myself. Yeah.
And you don't want it to be this mysterious thing. Yeah. You want it to be like replicable.
And I want to just like I understand it better. And so I kind of, as soon as I can see it, so this was supposed to be like an emotional flow chart, kind of like, I'm feeling this because of this, which does this, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Yeah. So that's kind of the rhyme and reason behind it.
And you're so creative. Like every time we talk, you're like involved in some new creative project, new card deck, new podcast. Like it's cool to watch the creative process happen.
Yeah. I mean, creative people, part of it, because, how long have we known each other now? For like a year, a little less than a year?
Yeah, less than a year.
And it's since then that I feel like my socializing that I've been doing, the creative projects has just been exponential because the crowd of people that we hang out with, it's just contagious. Yeah,
literally. And it's like healthy, good, positive pressure where everyone's doing something creative. Everyone's putting pen to paper, like manifesting their vision into something. And I'm like, I've got to get on that. There's people to bounce ideas off of and, always pools of people to like pull from to hang out with. So it's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So you've been kind of busy lately, preparing for.
Yeah. Spring semester where we've been on winter break for the last couple months. So the education program I work for is just coming back to school next week. So we're just crafting, working on skill development, planning out our curriculum. It's been really fun.
For kindergartners.
I'm
so envious of kindergartners who get that kind of an education.
I know. It's fun. It's fun to be the kindergarten teacher because I feel like I get to relive kindergarten as an adult, just having the most fun ever. Yeah.
I think that the current education system is just like a little bit narrow. And I have distinct moments that I remember as a kid where my mind was expanded on understanding what learning could look like. Because it was kind of just this narrow idea of like sitting at a desk, reading a book and taking a test.
Yeah.
But that's like so limiting to
Yeah.
think that that's the only way that you can learn things. But
And it's also so anti-learning. Like it is not the way that we have naturally evolved to learn. It's not encouraging to the mind. Like you learn when you have fun.
yeah.
And it's not really fun, especially when most kids now have like some form of ADHD or, you know, sensory issues of some kind. And so sitting down inside under fluorescent lights, like not fun.
Yeah. Even when I go over to hang out with somebody and it's a house that has like the overhead big light, I go crazy.
Me too.
I'm like, okay, we're hanging out in the dark. Switch. Like,
can we turn that lamp on and turn that one off?
Yeah. I definitely understand that. And I don't know how I made it through 12 years of fluorescent lights.
Well, now you get to choose like the beautiful ones.
Yes. I know. This really is like my revolution against that time under fluorescent lights.
You're just like only ambient light from now on forever.
Candlelight, colored lighting, no big lights. Well, let's go ahead and start talking. I know you have a couple things in mind for situations that we could look at as we go through the cards. What are kind of the two that you had in mind?
Yeah, so the first one, it's a little bit more of a specific sort of situation. And it's broad, but it's more specific. It's more about like career vision work where, you know, I am trying to broaden my horizons. I'm trying to step into more professional roles. I'm trying to get more education, figure out what that looks like. And for the longest time, just being in vision mode, it's kind of like there's no pressure. I just get to imagine all the possibilities. But now that I'm taking steps forward, all this fear is coming up, like this imposter syndrome, like can I do it? Is this the path for me? Is it going to be like the failures in the past? Am I going to be able to go through school and not have like such a terrible experience like I had the first time? So a lot of that fear of scarcity is coming up as I take steps forward. And I think just kind of understanding that and being able to keep walking on my path in the right direction.
Yeah. And with the right mindset.
With the right mindset.
Yeah.
And then the second scenario, you talked to me about beliefs. So I looked up on ChatGPT. I'm like, you know me super well. Tell me what beliefs I might have that I might not know. And one of the things it came up with was like, I am extremely purpose driven and it makes it difficult to have fun or do lighthearted things or to rest or just to be present because I'm constantly seeking purpose and I'm attracted to more of depth and hard work. And it's like I can do hard things for the sake of them being hard, but I can't do fun things for the sake of them being fun.
Okay.
And sometimes I'm like, I just want to have fun.
Yeah.
Why can't I go to this party and show up and feel present and lighthearted? I'm like, oh, if I'm not in a deep conversation right now, it's like not worth it. And I don't like that mindset.
100%.
So diving into like, where does that come from? Why is it pervasive in every relationship and dynamic that I have? Yeah.
Okay. Well, selfishly, I love this because you're very similar to me. Like both of those, I'm like, wow,
right.
This is going to be more for me than it is for her.
I'm hoping it applies to a lot of people too, because a lot of people I talk to are like similar in, especially the career stuff, but finding purpose.
Okay.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah. Those are both really good. And I relate to both. I would think that maybe the first situation is a little bit easier to tackle with the cards.
Yeah.
The second one is great. And it's just a little bit bigger where it might be a little tougher to go into kind of the layers of emotions that you might have.
Yeah.
So I'd recommend the first, but I'm down to try whatever you want.
Yeah. Let's do the first one
Okay.
because it feels up for me right now.
Okay,
so.
cool. Let's go a little bit more in depth with that. So it's kind of you've noticed some fear come up as you're now getting closer to pursuing, what was it specifically?
Just anything career related. So right now, what I'm thinking about, I just submitted applications for a master's of social work program.
Oh, cool.
So getting a master's degree and furthering my education has been the big thing. It's taken me forever to get here. There's been a lot of avoidance of doing that. And also a lot of fear still around, like, is this the right path for me? But I've submitted the applications, and it's like, now I'm just waiting. I'm like, to see if I'm accepted or rejected. And that whole process is
And do you not
frustrating.
totally know how you feel about whether you got accepted or rejected?
Well, I don't know, because it's in the waiting. I'm in the waiting zone right now.
But as you anticipate it, is there a part of you that doesn't know whether you would like or dislike to be accepted?
Yeah.
And vice versa with being rejected.
Totally.
Like there might be a relief
Right.
if I get rejected, because then I don't have to make a decision.
That's exactly right.
And go down that path.
Let me stay in decision mode for even longer.
Okay. So is there a particular date coming up where decisions do have to be made that, maybe some of this fear is going to culminate towards?
It is kind of in the future, but by August, I will either be starting the program or I will have to have changed the game plan.
Okay.
And so, it feels like there's a lot up in the air right now.
Okay. Well, this is a good time. You've got plenty of time to work through it. So the first question for our situation is we want to identify 3 emotions that you feel.
Okay.
I'll give you a little, just a quick explanation of the emotion pairs that might help you a little bit. So there's 8 primary emotions, and this follows Dr. Plutchik's emotion theory. And it's kind of an extension of Darwin's original theory that living things have emotions. It's not like a human thing. It's like, dogs have emotions, squirrels have emotions. Like they are tools that we developed evolutionarily, mostly to, communicate in a pack. But, we see emotions in plenty of other species too. These 8 primary emotions are kind of the basic ones, and they can be felt at different levels of intensity or arousal. You can see sadness goes from grief at the top down to pensive at the bottom. So these 8 emotions, I kind of formulate that they work in 4 pairs, just to make it easy to kind of understand them. Sadness and joy deal with possession of things that we care about, and whether we are losing possession or gaining possession. The next emotion pair is fear and anger, and these both deal with threats. When we perceive something to be a threat, we will have one of these 2 responses, which is to either confront the threat, that's anger, make yourself big and loud, and to attack it, to remove the threat. And fear, if you don't think that you have the ability to do that, you're more likely to feel fear, which is to avoid it, to make yourself small and quiet and to hide from it.
Yeah.
Next is trust and disgust. And now these are stimulated by when something or someone is in our proximity and we kind of take an assessment of their values. And it could be like the physical attributes, it could be their characteristics, it could be the taste of something. And if the values are aligned with our own, it motivates trust. And trust has us welcome the thing in and embrace it, bring it into our community. But if the values are misaligned, then it motivates behaviors of pushing away, rejecting, even vilifying, or literally vomiting it up and out of your system if you determine it to be bad for you. So that's those 2. And then the last 2 are anticipation and surprise, which both are triggered by new territory or change that we sense is coming. And usually change that that's going to have an impact on our life. And anticipation is new territory that is coming. And then surprise is new territory that wasn't anticipated and has now happened. And both of them we're trying to orient to that change, but the difference is just is it still coming or has it already happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, drinking from the water hose.
No,
but
it's great.
Water hose? Fire hose?
Fire hose.
I was like,
You're like,
water hose
just an average stream of
yeah.
water coming in.
Hanging out in the backyard as a kid. Fire hose. Okay, so any thoughts there so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think anticipation feels really on point here.
Okay.
Anticipating new territory,
Totally.
potentials.
We kind of laid
fear.
out the timeline being, the next 6 months, 7 months.
Yeah.
So definitely this is going to be the star of the show.
Yeah, for sure. I think fear is part of that too. And it kind of feels like in the same camp, that anticipation and fear.
It's funny that you chose those 2 because on the back of the emotion cards, we have the emotion combos. And since these are the primary emotions, they can mix with the others to form secondary emotions. And you had mentioned anxiety, and anxiety is the combination of fear and anticipation.
Well, that's perfect.
So
that's exactly right. So am I picking 3 then?
So yeah, we can kind of feel through it still, but those 2 feel strong, right?
Those feel strong.
Okay. Any others?
I think, let's see. These 2 are the only ones that come up as well. I think joy, because I'm really happy to be in this place of life that I'm in and being able to move forward. Like, having choice is such a privilege. And so I feel a lot of gratitude with that. So I think joy is part of it.
Okay, that's a good one. I'm guessing that I know it's not an emotion that we are used to maybe viscerally feeling, but I'm guessing that there's some trust there as far as the same reason you're feeling that joy is kind of like the path feels aligned.
Well, and I think part of the fear and the anticipation is that, like, I'm not sure if it's feeling aligned potentially.
Okay, I like that.
And it is and it isn't, you know? So I think trust could be there for sure.
Okay.
But it's kind of like competing with the fear and the anticipation.
Should we do joy as the third, though?
Yeah, I think joy.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's do joy. I love that. You're one of the first people to choose joy.
Yeah.
You're good with those 3?
Yeah, sounds great.
Awesome. With those 3 emotions, as you were picking them, were you kind of thinking about just the general feeling that you have, like right now, thinking about it?
Yeah, like I can feel it in my body,
Really?
just like slight nerves, and my face like can sometimes twitch when that anticipation and fear comes up. So,
is there a moment that you can kind of visualize that's already happened, or maybe in the future, where it would bring the emotions up quite a bit more? Maybe like opening a letter that has the results of something to schooling, or is there something like that you can think of?
Like thinking about the future, potential future?
Yeah, this situation.
Well, okay, so something that kind of is coming up is I had applied for colleges, you know, right out of high school and had gotten into some, not gotten into others. And that was like the rejection around schooling had caused a lot of disappointment and shame.
Okay.
And so I think there's some fear around feeling shame and rejection. Like if I'm choosing a path and that path doesn't choose me back, it feels like rejection. And I think I'm afraid of that.
It's really good.
You know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We haven't even started, and that's like brilliant. Okay.
Also anticipation, like anticipation of surprise, of the unexpected, of maybe obstacles being in the way that I'm not anticipating, and having to deal with that discomfort, or, you know, having to shift plans. There's some like anxiety around that.
All right. So with those 3 emotions chosen, we're going to go ahead and dive into looking at each of them a little bit closer. So let's start with fear. If fear is a response to threats, our first question is, what is the source of the threat?
Yeah, the feeling that I need to commit to a career and that career needs to meet certain criteria. And if it doesn't meet certain criteria, I'll feel like unmoored or purposeless, lost.
Yeah. Unmoored. Love that word.
Yeah. So source of the threat, I guess, yeah, in relation to this situation with applications, with career, like I'm making this decision and now it's out of my hands. Like there's this lack of control that kind of comes with it too. I don't know if that would be like a source of threat is.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, part of it is like time is moving on.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
We gotta start committing to the things that we want to do. And I can already tell that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a little bit of the fear is just analysis. It's kind of just being afraid to choose a path.
Yeah.
I think there's like an avoidant part within all of us that feels like our freedom is immediately threatened as soon as we commit to a path that requires years of schooling or years of something. Is that part of it?
Absolutely. Because I feel like there are so many different facets of myself, and that if I'm choosing this path, am I neglecting these other parts of myself? Like I'm not investing time in developing those. And I think I've always preferred like breadth and depth, but like in this situation, I've been investing in breadth and lots of different experiences. And now I'm choosing to go deeper, and that's scary because it is like, it's almost like a commitment fear. Yeah.
100%. Okay, so I guess we kind of jumped the gun here a little bit on this. The next question is describe what it's threatening. So I think part of that answer is what we were just saying, that it threatens your freedom and the ability to consider breadth.
Yeah, there's a sense of loss or fear of loss, fear of missing out, fear of losing out on other opportunities. And also, when I choose this path, I'm going to change as a person. I'm going to become this path too. And I think there is some fear of not belonging in other places. What comes to mind right now is like, I think my dad would prefer if I was going the legal path, going into law school. Like that was my original plan, was going to law school. And then I kind of blew up that life and chose this very alternative life. And now I'm choosing to go to social work. And I think that there's just this element of like push and pull on different identities, like wanting to invest in this thing, but not wanting to be rejected by the alternative, you know, or like being rejected by my dad, even though I know he doesn't reject me and he accepts me. But I think that's just a deep fear. It's like wanting to make him proud.
Yeah. Okay. So it feels like there's a couple layers to the fear.
There's many layers.
It's almost like we could do fear, and break it out. A fear of this, fear of this, fear of this.
Yeah.
Which it's like an interesting way. I've never used the cards, but I think you actually could do that.
Yeah.
But okay, so we'll try and juggle a couple of those. But I like where we are right now with describing this fear. So this next question is kind of a big one for those fears we just laid out. Why do you feel vulnerable to this? And that question, in order for us to feel threatened by something, there's some vulnerability. You know, you're not going to be scared of a housefly because we know that it can't do anything. But we're going to be more afraid of a black widow because it's poisonous. And so we're more vulnerable to that. So for these fears to exist, let's try and look at what the underlying vulnerability is.
Yeah. What comes to mind is like a lack of self-efficacy, like lack of believing that I can really do it. I can really manifest my vision, and that I need to rely on other people to manifest my vision with me and for me. Not knowing if I can do it.
Okay. And so that makes you even more trepidatious about the choice because you're not confident that you can excel in the way that you would want to on all of the paths. Okay. That makes sense. That totally would explain why this would feel more threatening.
Yeah.
Is there anything else beyond that one?
The lack of control element, you know, just there are other factors deciding for me and with me. Like I might not get into this program and then, and I don't know why that's like such a big deal and big problem. Because most of the time I'm like, it's okay, I'll just switch things around. But when it comes to that fear, I think that's that it's out of my hands. I don't have control. I don't know what they're thinking of me, if I'm considered a good applicant or not. Yeah.
Could part of the vulnerability be either a lack of diversity or just a perceived lack of diversity as far as all the different things that you're doing? So you said you normally go for breadth. I know from what I know of you that you do a lot of cool things. You hang out with a lot of different people with different skills. And so to me, it kind of seems like if one door closed, you've got so many cool things happening anyway that it's not really a heartbreak. You know, you don't seem like a person who's put all their eggs in one basket. But that could be where a vulnerability might come from.
I think, and this is something I've worked on for a long time, but externalizing my worth, like I've externalized that. I've given my worth into the hands of other people to decide what my value is and what my worth is.
Okay.
I've been relocating that into myself, but it seems like that still hangs around where I'm like, well, if I'm not accepted, that means I'm bad. I didn't do enough, and I could have been doing more. And,
Yeah, and I mean it's stressing me out just thinking.
I know
because rather than kind of just making choices based on your values, the things that you want, you're kind of having to anticipate what responses are from these other people that you are deriving worth from.
Exactly.
Like, if I got rejected from this school, what would my dad think about that? What would my friends think about that? That's a lot of mental bandwidth.
Yeah.
That probably doesn't feel great.
No.
Okay. Okay, so we've got a couple good ones there. So how are you inclined to avoid this?
Well, it took me forever to actually submit those applications.
Okay.
I have to almost like distract myself from that pressure in order to sit down and work on the application.
Does it take the shape of like procrastination?
Procrastination, committing to other things that are not important at all. I'm going to dive really deep into this irrelevant skill that's not going to help me at all. Yeah.
I love
another thing that comes up too, this is a big one. I get into romantic relationships that I direct a lot of energy into. And this is the first time in my life where I'm like really single. And I think in the past I've used romantic relationships as a way to avoid my personal work, really doing the work I need to do for my career and figuring out what do I want in my life. And so I'm at a point where I'm like, now I'm figuring out what I want in my life. I need to go for it. And that's exciting.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Procrastination is a funny little bitch. How it can take the shape of comfort. Like relationships are comfortable.
Yeah.
And this is a struggle I've always had, is when I'm single, I get things done way easier, and my inner compass just feels much truer, because I'm not having to bounce things off of other people, but also because there isn't that shroud of comfort, which is just always so tempting. But then procrastination can also take the shape of hyperfixating and getting super busy, which is essentially like, if I make myself so busy that I have no time to think, I won't have to think about this.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which I've done that too. Yeah. One of the most kind of tumultuous chapters of my life came from both of those things. It was running my first business where I was working like 70 hours a week, and I was in a long-term committed relationship.
Yeah.
It was like that part of my subconscious brain was just really making sure that I did not have a split second to think about the impacts of all these things that I knew I needed to do.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because that totally reminds me of what we'll dive into with anticipation. But like, I had kind of a traumatic schooling experience, like a college education experience. And so, and part of that was I filled my schedule with every possible thing I could. And I overworked myself and I burnt myself out completely.
Yeah.
And I really don't want to repeat that. I think part of the reason I've been avoiding school was because of that really negative experience. And so now going back into school, I'm anticipating all these priorities coming into play and tasks I need to complete and deadlines that I have to meet. And I'm like, oh, I got rid of that all for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So definitely haunted by wondering if you'll just kind of doomed to repeat the same mistakes type thing.
That feels like a big fear or weight. That feels like a big weight.
Yeah, I get that one, definitely. Okay, we're going to move on to anticipation.
Okay.
And this one, like we said, it's you sense that there is new territory or change is coming, and that you know it will impact you. Yeah. And the amount of anticipation that you feel is determined by that level of perceived impact. If it wasn't going to have that big of an effect on your life, well, then you wouldn't feel much anticipation.
Right.
But you know that based on the presence of the emotion, the more that you feel, the more impact you think it has. Okay, so first question on that anticipation. What is the new territory?
Yeah, the new territory is graduate program,
Okay.
graduate education,
Mm-hmm.
furthering my education.
Furthering your career.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And when is it coming?
Potentially August.
Okay. And that's, would decisions need to be made before then? Or is that kind of the...
Yeah, like I'll find out if I'm accepted probably by May or
Mm-hmm.
so. And I think the anticipation is there when I'm assuming that I've gotten in.
Okay.
Like, let's say I get accepted, I've gotten in, I'm going. Now there's anticipation because my routine's going to change, my life's going to change. I'm going to need to orient towards school. There's deadlines, like I said. Finances. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say no to the hanging out with friends and creative projects.
No.
No.
All right. You can't go to school.
We've got to do more podcasts.
And it's not at all because I want to hang out with you. Okay. So we got our time frame on when that new territory is coming. So describe how, well, I actually think we just answered this one too, describing how it will impact you, all of those things, changing your social life, changing finances, changing everything.
Yeah. And kind of compacting my schedule too, because I'm still going to be working full time. I'm going to be doing extracurricular things. And so just that compacting my schedule, I'm anticipating stress. I'm anticipating more urgency in my life. And I've been trying to prioritize rest and not urgency. And so going back into that, I'm like, yeah, okay, it's going to be impactful.
Okay. Do you kind of like that though sometimes? Do you like the busy, urgent?
I do.
Okay.
I think I do. Yeah.
Some people don't, some people do. Okay, so you do.
Because I think when I'm busy, it's full. It's like I don't have to worry so much about extra time. Like right now I'm on winter break from school. And I'm like, there is so much time to fill with so many things. Like so I'll be glad in a sense for that to happen.
Okay. Awesome. So how are you inclined to prepare for this? Anticipation usually motivates behaviors like rehearsing, analyzing.
Gearing up, I think kind of focusing on routines and following routines, trying to be more consistent. I'll probably also be saying no to things before school starts so that I have more space in my life to accommodate it. And when I think about doing that stuff, I actually feel less anticipation because I'm like, I'll be prepared.
Yeah. But one little trap of anticipation that can make the fear even worse, though, is anticipation is kind of like we're putting conscious effort into preparing and rehearsing. And as we do that, we're kind of pouring expectations and value into this thing. Like we'll get into it with joy, but joy is about gaining possession of things that you care about. And it is determined by how much value you've attributed to it.
Yeah.
You know, if something has tremendously more sentimental value, even though to someone else it might just be like a little trinket, because you've attributed value, you might be heartbroken when you lose it, even though to another person it's worth nothing.
I think that does go into the fear then, because the more I prepare, the more I commit, the more value it has. Totally. And I feel like that happens in relationships where the more committed I get, the more it hurts to lose that.
Right. The potential for disappointment climbs. And anticipation quite often is like the engine behind that.
I think another thing too that's coming up is an anticipation of more fear. Like, let's just add layers onto this. But, you know, when you encounter a similar situation, it can bring up the feelings that you had from the previous situation. And I'm thinking about how, like at the beginning of my college experience, my grandpa died, COVID happened, I was forced out of my apartment, kicked out, had to live with my parents again after starting to be independent, and then did the rest of school online while I'm navigating this like grief process. And I there's this anticipation of anything can happen. like anything did happen in my college experience the first time around.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, if another thing rocks my world when I'm in my master's program, is it going to be overwhelming like it was the first time? And how am I going to deal with that? Yeah.
And will you be able to handle it gracefully, or will it, wreck you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's really good. So let's jump into the joy now.
Okay, let's
have some fun. So kind of like I just introduced, it's gaining possession of something that you value and that you've attributed value to. So the first question, what was gained? The joy that you're feeling, tell me a little bit more about it.
Yeah, I think the joy is I made a decision. Like I submitted the application. I don't have to worry about it anymore. Life is going to move forward. Like life is always going to move forward. And I think a sense that, yeah, big things are happening no matter which direction I go in. So when I'm not worried about rejection, I'm like, yeah, if social work isn't what I do, I'm going to have an amazing life. If social work is what I do, I'm going to have an amazing life. And I also love learning. I love learning. I love school. I love reading and taking classes, and I'm excited about this opportunity that I get.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this emotion because, not to get ahead of ourselves, but I think that if you do feel that way, where it's kind of like you're happy either way, I think that is going to alleviate so much pressure.
Totally. Like even just talking about it, my body's like so much more relaxed than thinking about this fear.
100%. So the joy can very much unlock or kind of just be the pressure valve release on the anticipation or maybe even the fear. And it kind of just turns into, well, rather than me feeling like the disappointment of this not panning out, let it just be like, let's do the opposite where let's nourish the joy in whatever happens.
I also feel like there's joy when I think about why I'm making this choice, which is like, I am going to be able to learn more skills, doing things that I really enjoy, which is connecting with people, talking to people about really deep things like healing, trauma work, being able to bring that into nature school with kids. Like the idea of just learning more is so exciting, and that I get to grow from there. Like social work is not the end point. It's just one thing that's going to help me like grow this beautiful life. So that brings a lot of joy.
Very cool. And how was it gained?
How was the joy gained?
Yeah. So when you say that you would be happy either way, are you gaining that joy by essentially focusing on the happy details in either direction? Or what does that process look like?
I think the joy also comes from like what was in my control. Like I was able to do the things that were in my control, like submitting the application. And thinking about that builds the self-efficacy that I fear I don't have. So I think the joy comes from like I have agency and I'm using my agency for good.
Yeah. and so is part of it almost like you're happy with however things shake out, just as long as you are putting your best foot forward.
Yes.
So it's like, as long as I'm trying, whatever the universe throws at me in response, cool.
Right. As long as I'm aligned, as long as I'm authentic, as long as I am making the decision for the right reason, like I can be joyful with that, however it turns out.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's really great. It's good to kind of focus on reframing it like that, because then it takes what could be that fear of missing out, which is almost like I'm afraid of committing to either path. And what you realize is that the indecision is what you might ultimately be the most disappointed in.
Right.
And so it's like committing, you're going to be happy and satisfied either way. But you know that in the long run, the thing that would disappoint you the most is if you don't decide on, if you're just like kind of too scared.
That's really deep.
Lean into the indecision.
That's such a good realization. Like it is more of the indecision. It's more about me being in that state of like push and pull, yes or no. Like that is what I don't like being in. But actually making the decision, it's like, I don't have to worry actually anymore because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I think fear is very outcome oriented. Like when I'm outcome oriented and I'm thinking about potentialities, it's fear versus when I'm thinking about my present state, my actions, what's in my control, and not outcome oriented, it's very joyful.
Right. Yeah. And if the joy is mostly being triggered by you just enjoying your agency, well, then
I'm enjoying free will.
that will be omnipresent no matter what the outcome is.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like it's nice to just lean into that as the antidote a little bit to this.
Because ultimately this isn't the end of the choices that I'm going to have to make. I'm going to have to make choices all the time for everything.
You got a whole life of doing that ahead of you.
So yeah, I think there is joy in just having made a choice.
Totally.
And exploring and experimenting with it.
And your life feeling like it's yours rather than it's kind of like happening to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a big, big thing. That agency versus encounter. Yeah. Do I have control or am I being controlled? That is the dynamic that comes up a lot for me.
Yeah. It's funny how much I love this quote. Timmy Chalamet just dropped in a random interview and Zendaya like looks at him like, okay. But the quote was just, you have to remember that life isn't happening to you, it's coming from you. And I really like that.
That's so beautiful.
I know, especially in moments kind of like this, because then it's like, what I want to happen in life needs to come from me.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm kind of taking steps forward, enjoying my agency, then come what may.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because when I'm in that state of joy, there is so much more creativity that flows from me. Like when I'm really embodying it, it's like, and I feel like powerful and capable and I am the agent. There is so much life that comes from me. There's so much I want to celebrate and write about and like pursue from that state. And the other day I performed at the storytelling event and I'd been trying to write and I'm like, I need to write something really important. And I need to say really important things because I'm being given this platform. And there was just more fear around it. And I just couldn't write for shit. And then as soon as I started thinking about like the kids at nature school and what I really care about, then I wrote this poem that I really love. And that
If children ruled the world.
If children ran the world. And that was like, I felt good sharing it. And I didn't care what people thought about it because I knew I wrote it from this place of joy. So I think joy is really motivating for me.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good to connect with this year.
And I feel like that's kind of a good example of you, like you said earlier, relocating the validation to yourself.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, now I'm not concerned about what other people think about this because I wrote this in a way that gives me such a satisfaction that I don't care about what other people think. Yeah. I'm satisfied.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the fact that I just wrote a poem, like that's really cool. That's awesome that I just did this. So like having that decision made and using free will.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Okay, so I think we may have covered this a little bit, but the next question is describe why it is valuable to you. So that agency, making your own choice, it's valuable to you because the expression of free will and autonomy is nice.
Yeah, and the orientation towards joy just feels better and it feels more alive than an orientation towards fear. And it's not always conscious, but I think sometimes I do end up in that fear state more often. And I'm not thinking about that joyful, like reasons why I'm doing this, you know?
Yeah. I think part of the reason why gratitude is just like so universally something that's encouraged in personal development circles. So gratitude is kind of an extension of joy. And you could understand, just as we've been talking about, how joy sort of unlocks like self-sufficiency. Where if I can be happy no matter what the situation is, and I can be grateful no matter what, then I never need to really worry. Like I will make the best of, and if I know that I'm capable of creating joy and making the best of any situation, then I'm never really going to be afraid or be too outcome oriented. And so joy is actually a very cool emotion for providing like a sense of security that you wouldn't guess.
Well, and that brings up just this dynamic between scarcity and abundance. Like when you're in that state of joy, it feels like everything's really abundant, your needs are met, or if they're not met, that's okay because they will be. There's more trust in the path and in life when you're in this joy state. Versus like if you're always concerned about getting your needs met or focused on what needs aren't met, it's like, yeah, that's a very anxious state to be in.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's really good. And I know this is kind of getting deep, but you mentioned spending a decent amount of time in romantic relationships. Joy has been such a great way for me to approach relationships because your needs become a lot less important if you can exercise this.
Right.
And there's just something about going into a relationship with needs that's very unattractive.
Needing something from someone, something needing someone, or someone needing something from you. It's like there's more of a weight to that. There's more of we're not just giving and receiving to give and to receive. There's an urgency and a desperation to it.
Right. And I think that's like kind of universally unattractive, especially in early stages of like flirting and dating.
Oh, yeah.
As opposed to somebody who just shows up. And if they're just like, they've got joy on lock, right? And they just approach with very much like, oh, well, if this doesn't work out, that's totally fine. It was lovely to meet you. Bye. And there's something about a person like that's so disarming when a person is just so like satisfied.
Right.
And happy with whatever.
Well, and you know what I think that is? It's choice. Like when you're joyful or when you can access joy, it means that you chose to be there. Like if you're choosing to be somewhere, there's power in that. There's agency. It's like, oh, I'm being chosen by you because you're living in joy versus like if someone's coming to you from a place of need, they might not be choosing you. They might be defaulting to you.
Right.
Because you're able to give them something they need. Yeah.
I love that. I really like that. And just one other note I want to make as we're just romanticizing joy right now.
Totally romanticizing joy.
I mentioned that these 8 primary emotions kind of come from a biological perspective. And something that I love to think about is just in the history of our evolution, joy is not an emotion that is as second nature to us as fear. You know, fear and anger,
that's interesting.
Anticipation, maybe sadness have been so much more at the forefront of the human experience going back thousands of years. And joy is something like joy has never been integral to survival. You know, like joy doesn't save you by motivating you to run away from the lion. Like that's what fear does.
Right.
Joy is not the thing that helps defend your home from invaders. That's anger.
Yeah.
And so.
But I would kind of argue that I think joy motivates evolution.
Ooh.
Differently
Say
than
more.
fear does.
I like this.
I think that we are drawn to create from a place of joy, like from a place of love. When creatures come together to create and breed and make offspring, I think that comes from a place of joy and love. You know, the survival of the friendliest. That's another concept that competes with survival of the fittest, right? Whoever can make the best friendships, whoever can collaborate more, whoever can be cohesive socially, those are the ones that are going to survive longer. And I think being social breeds joy.
Yes.
You know, so I think that joy is also like a motivator of evolution as much as fear is.
Yeah, because joy is constantly like the map of where we want to go. Ideally, what are the best circumstances?
Yeah.
Joy is what tells us where we want to go. And so because of that, yeah, like you said, it motivates evolution. But just as far as kind of like thinking about like our lizard brain and our mammalian brain,
system,
I think joy is one that you just have to put a little bit more conscious effort into doing. Rather than fear is just a little bit lower hanging of a fruit. And so I think there's also, we were talking about the choice. I really like, I've never thought about how choice is very much infused in a lot of joy, but I like that too, because I think that joy and love are not as easy to choose as fear. And so when we aren't doing it, it's kind of like, hey, I'm using my agency. Again, I'm
Right.
making a choice with this emotion because it's not always readily available in the lizard brain, you know?
Yeah. And also, discomfort is a part of life. And I think it is easy to choose the fear response to discomfort, or the avoidant response, or the anxious response. And like, joy is that effortful, like, I'm going to meet the discomfort and still choose my response to it. And that's going to give me joy. Yeah. So I totally agree with you.
Okay, well, lovely. I guess there's one more. I don't want to miss this one. How are you inclined to express your joy?
I am definitely, like, I verbalize it a lot. I love to write about it. I love to create from it. I love talking to people about joy, obviously. Like, this conversation is just like making me lighter and excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of the same. I'm somebody who very much likes to tell people how I'm feeling and tell you how much I love you.
Oh, me too.
And yeah, I love doing that. It's kind of like hard. It feels weird for me to keep joy unexpressed.
That's actually like a big issue I have with society, is that we just don't express it as much as we could be, or at least I was raised where I think expressing joy and expressing affirmations to people has been sort of an uncomfortable process that I've been really excited to open up into. Like, I think everyone should just tell each other they love each other all the time.
Totally agree. Yeah. Okay, well, this has been lovely. I love joy getting picked as an emotion along with these, because there's such a contrast between starting on the first line being fear and then ending on joy. And it feels like it gives us a path forward a lot clearer than if, let's say, this had been anger or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moving on to intuition, which is kind of just summarizing everything we went through. This fear, multi-layered.
Very layered.
Few things. What started a little bit as FOMO, fear of missing out, a fear of rejection a little bit.
Fear of rejection and missing out. Yeah, I think those are big ones right there.
And normally you're kind of inclined to procrastinate or to avoid. But luckily in this situation, you've kind of already cleared that hurdle because you've put in the applications.
Right. So the fear is now more of like that fear of rejection, fear of not belonging in the group. And I think, I just knowing that's out of my control is kind of helpful.
Yeah. And then the anticipation is kind of obvious. It's just waiting for the rejection or the acceptance.
And then orienting my life around whatever change is coming.
Yep. And then the joy, though, was...
I feel like that was a big, like, aha moment.
Totally.
Like, oh, it's funny how I put joy as the third emotion, and it was also something, it was very latent, very subconscious. I'm like, I'm going to pick joy.
It was the accent emotion initially.
Exactly. Initially, it felt like the fear was the bigger thing driving my thoughts around career right now. But it feels like joy is really what has been motivating it. It's like the motivation to apply came from joy and feeling like this could really benefit my path. And so I think that was good to get into.
Yeah, I think that is nice. And that's a lovely thing about joy, is it just takes a little bit of conscious effort to reframe things. And quite often you can kind of shift around which emotion you're feeling the most.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, like, all emotions are useful. Like, there aren't negative emotions. Like, this fear is still helping you. Like, a good way to think about it is, if you didn't have this fear around as big of decisions as, like, your career and your life changing, I would kind of wonder. I'd be like, why are you so blasé with such a big part of your life? Like, the fear just shows that you care.
Right. Actually, I'm going to make that my aha moment here. Like, I do care about it. It's not that I don't care about the outcome. I do care about the outcome.
Yeah,
and that's why
deeply.
that's causing fear.
And it's nice to be self-sufficient and happy either way you go, but you can still definitely care about it. This doesn't mean not caring. You can definitely push hard, go for the things that you want, but also still be happy no matter what happens.
True.
So like the fear is lovely.
Right. And it kind of illuminates that acceptance is important to me and belonging is important to me just as values. And that's good to clarify from that fear.
Yeah. And as far as your anticipation, it doesn't seem like the anticipation that you're feeling too much of it and that it's getting out of control into like the anxiety direction. It seems like it's just a healthy anticipation.
It does feel like healthy anticipation and just motivating preparedness.
Yeah.
Like it's a very useful.
Being light on your feet and ready for change. So that's very cool. I think we're good on the first half.
Yeah.
And we can go ahead and move on to management.
Awesome.
Okay. So moving on to the second half. So that first half is kind of just letting the emotions out, talking about the feelings and what those look like. And now the second half is where we can start to get into maybe challenging, reframing even more than we kind of did, and looking at a couple other more specific details. Okay, so the first exercise is context and coping. So let's ask a couple important questions about this. Is the root of the problem in your control?
Is this when it comes to those emotions?
With the situation. So I think we could point to a couple things that are in your control, a couple things that are out of your control.
Mixed bag there.
I guess when it comes to the results of the applications, that part is out of your control.
Right. In control, I guess, is also the preparedness and what I'm saying yes and no to in my life, like the choice of creating the space for school.
Yeah, so with the answers to that, if it is in your control, then focus on what you can do to improve it. But if not, focus on how you can change your relationship with it. And so it kind of feels like the decision as far as getting accepted to certain paths is out of your control. But what you're talking about, the preparing, that is changing your relationship with it. It's like, am I going to be okay or will I be shattered by it? So I think we're kind of doing a good job already of changing your relationship with it. And second question, what's the most important thing in this situation? If we were to fast forward, let's say 6 months, and 6 months from now, Sierra was looking back on how you were living your life, what would be the thing that you would be super happy that you did?
A thought that comes to mind is like researching additional pathways for how I can bring my vision to life, not just putting all my eggs in the basket of this master's program.
Yeah.
But looking into what else could make me happy here, what else could bring, deliver skills that I want to learn and stuff like that.
That's really cool. Kind of just get creative on what are some other abstract ways that you could develop desires, talents, paths. In the meantime, or if it didn't pan out, or
maybe both. Maybe from a place of joy and excitement, not necessarily fear of I'm not getting in, I need a plan B. But I'm going here, maybe clarifying intentions and what I want to get out of the program. That's something I could reflect more on. And
maybe even leaning into your autonomy. I love thinking about free will.
Yeah.
Because every time I walk out of those conversations, suddenly I'm automatically going to be more creative in how I approach the problems in my life. Because it's like, don't be predictable. Don't do what the simple biological cause and effect brain would do. Exercise that free will if you have it. What's a totally original way that you could approach these problems?
Well, and also another thought around using my free will is having fun for the sake of having fun.
Yeah.
In this period of time where I'm just kind of waiting either way. Just have fun.
Oh, I love that. We're bringing your other situation into that.
Which is what I need more of. So
I was going to suggest that too, because you're just at an awesome stage of your life.
Totally.
And so it does feel like you don't want to feel too much anticipation of this decision that's coming in August, because it's that's 6 months in the future. There's so much that could happen between now and then. So why hyper fixate on that when you can make a lot of stuff happen now? Have a lot of fun, get creative. Do
Yeah, this doesn't need to be the only seed I'm planting. You know, I could be planting a whole bunch of seeds.
I'm a big believer that in reinvention, just in general, that everybody's capable of just reinventing themselves at any point, and that 6 months you can completely change your life, like radically.
Yeah.
With the right decisions, direction, hard work, whatever it is. That 6 months is an amount of time not to underestimate how radically you can change your life.
Well, and it's funny because I think, you know, babies go through such dramatic physical developmental changes. And like as adults, we don't go through the same level of developmental changes physically as children do. But we go through so many psychological, spiritual, philosophical transformations. Like what we lose in physical development, we gain back in this metaphysical development.
Absolutely.
That just continues exponentially throughout your life.
And something that's kind of unfortunate is I don't think a lot of people recognize that as much as they should. I think
agree.
Maybe because the education system, maybe because like we turn a legal adult at 18 or whatever it is. I think a lot of people kind of picture their life as like a plateau.
Right.
Where it's like once I graduate high school and I can smoke cigarettes, then it's like there's nothing left to do other than just coast into retirement, you know?
Right.
But I think we very much need to look at it as like beyond 12th grade, there is also an invisible 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, you know what I mean?
Well, and I think too, if we like thought about ourselves becoming elders, if we thought about that as an intentional process, like, there's so many developmental milestones before we hit elderhood, but we only hit adulthood and then it's like, we think that's it. There's just adulthood. So it doesn't matter what happens from then on out. Yeah.
Oh, there's a story I heard, I think, on a different podcast, and now I'm going to recycle it because I love it so much. But it was this older woman who, I think she lost her husband around the time she was 60 years old. And in her grief, she took up the piano, and she had never played the piano before. But there was something about the release of playing piano that just helped her express her sadness, but also helped relieve the pain, and it kept her busy. And she just would play piano every day. And she ended up in like a retirement home where she had a piano. And probably like 20 years later, she's like 80 years old, and she's playing the piano in a way that everybody heard it and thought, oh, she must have been a concert pianist earlier in her life.
Oh my gosh.
You know, when she was really young. But no, she had not played the piano until she was 60 years old. But like, we underestimate the stages of like how long 10 years is, 20 years.
Yeah.
We kind of this view of like, oh, you just sit down and watch TV for those 30 years of your life, right?
It's like, it's almost like you get to watch TV for the 30 years of your life because you've earned it through all this hard labor in your adulthood. Rather than we're going to just have fun. And at any point you can transform into this new thing. I forget who it was, but there's this beautiful woman. I think her name is like Bonnie or something. But she recently passed away, and she lived to be like over 100 years old. And she described having this very normal life. She had like several husbands. And then in her retirement, very similar story, she started having all these different careers. She's like, I'm going to gain this life back that I didn't use. And so she became like a national park forest ranger. And she's like the oldest forest ranger that there was.
Cool.
And had like 4 different careers in the last 20 years of her life. That's awesome.
It's so awesome. It's one of the things that I loved about my grandparents, my dad's parents. They lived on the East Coast as I was growing up, so I didn't get super close with them. But she was a famous artist, and he was an incredible engineer, and he would make harpsichords by hand. He was like one of the last craftsman that was making a bunch of harpsichords by hand, and he made a giant boat, and very cool people. And something I loved about them is that they died kind of late in their 80s, and even in their 80s, they were both picking up new hobbies. My grandpa, I remember going on like a family cruise, and he had a video camera the whole time, and he recorded a whole like family cruise video that he edited on Windows Movie Maker. And so he fully learned like how to do video. This is back in the 90s.
Yeah.
How to do video work and editing on the computer when he was like 82. And that's just so cool to me to pick up a hobby like that.
Motivated your passion for all of
100%.
this, like watching him do that?
Oh, yeah, totally. They were so eclectic, and it definitely gave me kind of permission. Like, oh, you can do whatever you want, whenever you want. Like make your life as full as you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
Okay, so coping. We can go kind of quickly through this one, but we did talk about procrastination earlier, so maybe it's good to visit coping.
So stop procrastinating and get back to it.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so coping strategies. When facing an amount or type of stress that we aren't able to manage, we all resort to our coping mechanisms. A form of compromise, coping buys us momentary comfort, but at a cost. Distressed feelings can be soothed or numbed. Uncomfortable thoughts could be bargained with or indulged, but our strategy is going to be picked for us until we consciously intervene. So what is an unhealthy coping mechanism that you've used in the past?
Yeah. Well, weed.
Okay.
Smoking weed. I'd say food is something that I lean into when I'm feeling lack of control and uncomfortable. Like I can overeat sometimes and not have a good relationship with food.
I'm an emotional eater too sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. But it's funny, like when I'm anxious, I'll overeat. When I'm sad, I undereat. So that's interesting.
Procrastination.
Yeah.
I think procrastination is a kind of obvious one where I think there's just like some level of fear or discomfort that we get with thinking about that thing that we know we need to think about. And so instead we keep ourselves busy.
Ooh,
numb it.
Another thing too is overthinking. I think that is this coping strategy. Like if I can just understand it enough, then I don't have to deal with the discomfort of it.
Interesting.
Even though it's taking up time and causing more stress and causing, draining my energy. Yeah. I'll overthink a thing to death.
It's kind of like a lot of therapists talk about this, but like over intellectualizing your feelings, which I think is kind of a form of that, where it's like, well, if I just logically explain my feelings enough, then they'll go away.
Right.
Yeah, which I think some people might see this and think that, where they're like, are you just like overthinking your problems with this flow chart? But.
Well, I think it's interesting that when we were going through the emotions, when we got to fear, like I'm feeling that fear in my body. Yeah. So I think it is a somatic process too.
Yeah. When you're looking at like, well, what triggers that emotion and what types of behaviors get motivated, you're in it, like you are in you're embodying that emotion to try and look at the different facets of it.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump to, well, I guess maybe we shouldn't skip. What's an example of a healthy coping mechanism?
Oh, playing, I guess, going outside, connecting to nature, being present.
I think a good one for you, since you've got a decent amount of time where you are twiddling your thumbs a little bit, waiting on certain things, is to lean into the having fun for fun's sake. It's kind of like a coping mechanism, I guess. It keeps you from overthinking in your anticipation of those results and going and, tackling a different problem, which is making sure you're present. And
it can look like procrastination, but it's really just bringing me joy.
Which, I would say is kind of an example of a healthier coping mechanism.
Yeah. Writing, being creative.
That's good.
Yeah. Like exercising. That's a big one.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So we're going to do stress inventory next. So the media that I watch, listen to, and read makes me feel inspired or upset.
Definitely upset. Should I put that here?
Yeah, we'll put that right there.
Okay. I mean, and that's because I've been consuming so much news lately.
And the news has never been worse.
Oh my gosh. Every day it's like getting hit with a tsunami of waves of just terror and horror. Having
people reach out being like, are you reading the Epstein files? I'm like, oh,
right.
I can't believe that there's like some part of my civic duty is currently to read the Epstein files and these horrible details.
And then me being the parasite that's going around being like, did you read the Epstein files?
Like, what are you doing, man? You gotta read them. Oh, it's brutal right now. Okay. Yeah, if you had chosen anything other than upset, I'd be like, what? Where are you? Okay. My workload at school, work, or home feels predominantly in control or overwhelming?
I'd say in control. Like I've spent this winter break preparing for school. And so I feel really excited to go back into it. And
Nice.
yeah.
Okay. The cleanliness of my home or bedroom brings me feelings of comfort or distress.
I make sure it's comfort.
Nice.
For sure. That's something I have control over and make good use of.
I am the exact same.
Yeah.
Cleanliness is kind of the way that my brain tries to assert control.
Right. What's that quote? Like, it's next to godliness.
Yeah.
Something like that.
That's why. Because I have to ascend to my godliness.
Because you believe that you are God.
That's right. And next time, we're going to process my God complex, everybody. Okay, so health is next. My sleep schedule has been mostly consistent or erratic.
Recently, erratic. I've been having nightmares like crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Weirdly. I think mostly because of the news I'm consuming. So,
Well, let me pull out my dream journal.
I'll pull out mine.
No! My diet, water intake, and exercise have been healthy or indulgent.
I think because of winter break, it's been a little bit more indulgent.
Okay.
Yeah.
My overall health and pain levels have been comfortable or draining.
I'd say comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on to social. Attitudes toward who I am and where I am in my life have seemed accepting or judgmental.
Oh man, like 50-50 on that one.
Really?
That's so hard.
This is other people's attitudes towards
Other
towards
people's
you.
towards me.
Mhm.
Oh, I think accepting.
Okay.
I think accepting.
Great. My support system and those I can lean on have felt close by or distant.
Close by.
Okay, lovely. The outlooks of those around me have seemed mostly uplifting or gloomy.
Gloomy. I think a lot of people are in the same news cycle boat.
Yep. And the last category is actions. By my own measure of productivity, I have been complacent or productive.
Maybe productive.
Okay. Nice. The promises I made to myself and others were mostly kept or neglected.
Ooh, kept. That was my oracle card that I pulled on the first of the year.
Ooh.
Out of like a million oracle cards,
At the
I picked.
party?
No, it was like after the party.
Okay.
I went home, pulled an oracle card, and I pulled promise keeping on the first. I'm like, when we're all setting New Year's
Wow.
resolutions, that's the one I get.
That's cool.
Synchronicity.
Okay. And you've been doing good at it. Okay, nice. And last, my efforts to reach out and show up for those that I care about were proactive or static.
Maybe a little bit more static.
Okay.
My efforts to reach out.
All right. Okay, so there is our exercise. We got kind of a quick little snapshot of the areas of your life that are doing pretty good. And then we can quickly identify a couple areas to be mindful of
Yeah.
as you move forward with the current situation. Cool.
Awesome.
And we are moving on to accountability. So we'll start with conscience and trust. So conscience is the strength of your core values, and trust is what's earned from yourself and those around you for upholding and following through on those values. So there are 12 core values on this card, and you can look through them, 6 on each side.
Okay.
And as you go through, you can reflect on whatever you want. It could be which one you need to work on. It could be what's the most important to you, what feels relevant. I think maybe because you have a timeline ahead of you, maybe think of what would be the best one to keep at the front of your mind.
In these next
Yes.
6 months or so. Okay. The one that's really sticking out to me right now is authenticity.
Ooh.
Just being aligned with my true self, being genuine. I think that I'm in a phase of life where I'm learning who my authentic self is and making sure my decisions are authentic to my true self.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that
Okay.
feels like a big one.
I think that's really good too, because in your joy line, I could tell that there was like a definite moment where you realized that you get a lot of joy from making a choice, but it's not just any old choice to move things forward. It's an authentic choice.
Yes.
And that's where that agency and, a conscious aligned choice gives you a lot more satisfaction than just
Right.
doing anything. So that's really good. So authenticity is what you're going to keep at the forefront of your mind. Okay, do that.
Awesome.
And now let's do unhelpful thoughts. So those thoughts that you were just explaining, those are something that, is it like something that you full on spiral about, or is it just in small moments you find yourself
I think
wringing your hands over these thoughts? Or
yeah, my spirals aren't as bad as they used to be, but sometimes is this going to be the same as it was before? Like, it can cause a lot of emotion. So, yeah.
And is there anything in particular that triggers those thoughts, or are they kind of just in the empty moments they creep in?
The empty moments, for sure.
All right, so let's do a little exercise. It's just a good way. Here, I'll just read this. Having an awareness of which thoughts and actions of ours are unhelpful is the crucial first step. But to change them, we need to challenge them. And this is done best with a strong line of questions. So in those little empty moments, when those come in, there's just a couple little questions to ask yourself to help quiet those. These thoughts, you said that they are wondering if you're going to repeat, doomed to repeat the same patterns.
I guess if we're thinking like the inner critic that is generating unhelpful thoughts, it's also like you're going to fail. You're not going to be able to show up and even begin for whatever reason, or you're not capable of doing this on your own. Like, those are some unhelpful thoughts that come up.
Okay. So those thoughts, would you say that they are more based on evidence, part of a pattern, or rooted in a core belief?
Probably rooted in a core belief.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Then let's do the questions for that. So core beliefs. This is a big one. Core beliefs are kind of tough to get into. And it like pained me as I was designing this that I could only dedicate this much space on one card to core beliefs, which is like one of the biggest things.
Well, it's not that important.
That you could spend weeks on in therapy, you know. But we'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
So if an unhelpful core belief underpins your thought, which group would it fall into? Would it fall into self-type beliefs, which is like, I am unlovable, worthless, helpless? Would it fall into others, which would be like people core beliefs, like people are bad, people don't care, people will leave me? Or is it the third category, which is the world beliefs, like the world is not safe, the world is unfair, the world is scary?
I mean, all of those kind of apply, but I think in this situation, it's more of the I.
The self.
It's the self.
Okay.
Because a lot of this career stuff has to do with the self anyway. It's like self-actualization.
Yeah. Okay. So self, let's complete that statement. I am
incapable.
Okay.
That's a big one.
Okay. I am incapable. So here's our line of questions to challenge it. So when do you first remember thinking this way?
I think probably, as a kid, it showed up in certain things I would try. Like, I'd try something, I wouldn't do well at it. It'd be like, you're bad, you don't do this well, you failed. But I remember it coming up really strongly when I was in like 9th grade or so. I tried soccer. I went to the first practice. I hated running. I was like, running sucks. And then gave up, just never went back. And there was such a existential crisis with that. I was like, I give up. I don't want to be the person who gives up. And so I went overboard and overdrive in the other direction, where then I took everything on and I refused to give up on anything.
Cool.
Yeah. So now it's been a process of finding balance with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's fun. So as a kid, it goes that far back?
Yeah, as a kid.
Okay. What experiences shaped this? So I think you just mentioned one with, you said soccer, right?
Yeah,
Running?
soccer.
Okay. Were there other things that you tried, weren't immediately good at, and so you judged yourself for it?
Probably a million things. I think that's like intergenerational, honestly.
It's everybody. I don't know what it is about, like, we have these expectations in our head that we're going to be amazing at things right away.
You know what? Another big one, this is so funny. When I was in 2nd grade, we were learning what a paragraph is.
Okay.
And I remember I wasn't listening because I probably, had like ADD or something. And I was not listening. I couldn't understand what a paragraph was. And I was so upset and so frustrated by not understanding. I couldn't hear my friend when she was telling me what a paragraph was. And so I just got so stressed out that the teacher like came over, Miss Thane, and she's like, it's okay. You don't have to do this right now. Like, we'll take your time. You can do it. Take as much time. We can go back to it the next time. And so I don't think I ended up writing it for a long time.
Okay.
Anyway,
All right.
I just felt really bad at writing, and now I'm like a writer.
Yeah,
so that's
and you're
cool.
amazing at it. Okay, so there's a couple experiences that maybe shaped this belief early on. Does this belief still serve you?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Believing I'm incapable.
Right. Yeah, I don't think it did. But you can see why the belief was initially formed as a kid who maybe didn't have a broader understanding of what it takes to get good at something.
Yeah.
And maybe if you have that expectation as a kid, you might create that belief being like, oh, maybe I just suck.
Yeah, it's me.
Yeah. But I think you pretty quickly, that belief no longer serves you. And it's also not correct.
It's kind of like this conditioning around what is failure and what is success that is not helpful. Right? More than the what am I capable of question. Yeah.
And it feels like the belief was formulated based off an emotional reaction rather than the evidence of what you actually are capable of.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's kind of nice to remember that, was this belief founded on evidence or was it just based on emotional reaction?
Totally. Probably more emotional.
Yeah. And so last question, how could you alter this belief to be more productive?
Let's see. If I don't know how to do something, I can learn it.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Where it's not necessarily just completely swapping out the belief. It's like, okay, well, I understand why I formulated the belief, but let's just say, I'm not good at things immediately, but I am capable of being very good at things with just a little bit of elbow grease.
Right. Yeah. If I'm intentional about something, I can develop the skills. Yeah. Use my free will.
Yeah. So with core beliefs, something I kind of believe is that it's a lot harder to just try and swap out a core belief and be like, no, I disagree. And instead just like win the war of attrition against core beliefs by slightly altering them. Where it's like, if it starts as I am incapable, then it's like, okay, well, let's slightly reframe it to still an adjacent belief. We're not just saying be gone, to say, I'm incapable on my first try of being a master.
Right.
But with some practice, I get better. And then you can kind of baby step core beliefs in a better direction.
Yeah. Like I can't be perfect on the first try.
Yeah.
And that feels like reasonable.
Yeah.
And yeah.
But
less emotional and harmful.
Yeah. But it's not, because I don't know, just personally, I know some people love them, but like affirmations don't do anything for me. It really feels like it's just too unrealistic to just tell myself the opposite thing. Because clearly my mind resonates with the logic of this core belief if it's still upholding it, and still like living by it. And so rather than just doing the opposite, which is like, I'm the best at everything, like that's not going to land in my mind. Instead, I have to just go a 1% difference. And then next week, it will be another 1% difference. And that will actually move the core belief as opposed to just kind of the wishful thinking that you can just
magically
suddenly start believing that you're amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So remember those questions, which is like recenter yourself on when that belief was founded. When you have those thoughts, just remember like, okay, when was the first time I felt this? And then think about how the circumstances were different than they are now. And that you are a much more capable person now. And you have so much more freedom and power and opportunity at your fingertips. And so a belief that you formulated as a kid playing soccer, it's so outdated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just think about those next time you feel yourself getting pulled in the empty moments towards that spiral. And let's move into our last pillar, which is innovation. So the first one we're going to do is reverse engineer. Reverse engineer trust and disgust to scrutinize your susceptibilities. Anger or fear to strengthen your sense of security. Reverse engineer anticipation or surprise to reinforce your resilience. or sadness or joy to generate a gratitude game plan?
Let's do strengthen sense of security.
Cool.
That feels like a big one.
I feel like we kind of did this in the first half.
Absolutely.
So yeah, let's look at the fear a little closer.
And I think that sense of insecurity is something that is a big barrier.
Really?
In all things, all relationships, and vision for what my life could be like. Yeah.
Okay, well, great. Let's see if we can pick anything up from this. So reverse engineer, basically it's recognizing that the presence of an emotion, if I feel something, whether I like it or not, it is indicative of whatever the thing is triggered by. If I feel fear, okay, the first thing I need to do is try and identify what triggered that fear. So there is the something that is a threat to you. That's what triggers fear. And then the intensity level of the emotion that you're feeling, in this case fear, indicates how much danger you perceive that threat poses. If you feel a tremendous amount of fear, well, then there's some vulnerability that you have for it to impact you that way.
Yeah.
So let's think about the something of your fear and then think about the danger. So the something.
Yeah, well, when I think about the fear of going back into school, there's it's that feeling of chaos and overwhelm that I felt in my first year of college, and losing my grandpa, all that grief coming up around then. So I think the fear is that stuff getting all riled up.
Okay. That is the threat?
Yeah, potentially.
Okay. When all those things happened, what was your mental state like? Did you handle it well? Was it kind of overwhelming?
It was overwhelming. I think I shut down a lot.
Okay.
The fear of the world ending was pretty big at that point, and the fear that people around me are dying, and what is happening. I don't understand what's happening, all those kinds of things.
The thing that I would maybe zero in on from what you just said is that you shut down.
Yeah.
And so, because your current fear isn't locked in on is my other grandpa going to die?
Right.
It's not about the specifics, but it's that you've seen yourself shut down when you get overwhelmed by things. And I think maybe that's the thing that you're afraid of.
Right.
Is shutting down. So now the danger, we've been kind of processing something like core beliefs and feeling capable. It would make sense how the danger that is posed by you shutting down in the face of a lot of stress is that it might affect your self-esteem.
Yeah.
And
affect relationships and affect how I'm connecting with people and with purpose. When I'm shut down, I don't feel purpose. I don't feel connected. I don't want to show up at school. I don't want to do my homework.
Yeah, so it kind of it shrinks down your sphere of life, of meaning, of influence. Okay, so we've identified those two things. So this is normally a writing prompt, but we'll just talk it out. So what are 3 things around you or within you that you feel are most threatened by this?
Threatened by that shutting down, potentially.
I think maybe self-esteem is one of them. Okay.
Connection.
Okay, connection. We'll go with those 2. So why don't these things feel safe or secure? If you had to try and put a finger on it.
Because they are sometimes inconsistent.
Your self-esteem is inconsistent?
Yeah, if I'm shut down and if I'm feeling disassociated, it's I'm not accessing emotions, I'm not accessing the real world and who I really am in that moment.
Okay.
So the inconsistency.
Okay. Is your self-esteem easily influenced?
I think it can be. I think it's cyclical.
Okay.
As weird as that sounds, especially if I'm PMSing or something.
Okay.
Yeah. everything sucks, I suck.
Right.
But then it like builds itself back up sort of naturally. So
we go from luteal, and then, after your period, you'll be
right.
beaming again.
As soon as I'm ovulating, it's like I'm the best person ever.
Right.
But
that's okay. Just a little side note. I would love to figure out a way to kind of incorporate that in.
The cycle, cyclical effect
where a person
of
is in their
emotions.
cycle when we use the cards.
Oh my gosh.
Because it's similar to here where we identified the other areas of your stress because we don't want it to influence as we are going through things.
Well,
That's
and
part of
also if we were doing this when I was in my luteal phase, it would totally change how I relate to everything we're talking about.
Yeah.
And if we were doing it, right now I'm like almost ovulating. So I'm feeling more confident.
Nice.
I'm feeling more like excited to talk. I'm more connected to joy and I'm less connected to fear. So it's been really interesting how like it has been a little bit harder for me to connect with that fear. Where is it coming from? What's it about? Like this is giving me more of motivation to go into that fear and look into it. But my luteal phase self would be so tapped in. It would be like, like deep diving into fear.
Okay.
So
cool.
That could be an interesting consideration.
Did we kind of zero in on that one? So why don't these? With self-esteem.
With self-esteem, it's cyclical, it's inconsistent,
and it is influenced.
It can be influenced, especially if a lot of it is influenced by my actions and what I'm producing. Like if I'm being lazy, unproductive, if I haven't exercised, if I haven't done the things that make me feel healthy, like my self-esteem's really low.
Okay.
But if I'm, if I'm exercising and doing all the things, if I'm being creative, my self-esteem is high.
Okay. So the nice thing about it is if your self-esteem is easily influenced and if you were to shut down under the weight of stress, that could negatively affect your self-esteem. But the good thing about your self-esteem being impressionable is that you can prove it to yourself.
Absolutely.
And you can improve your self-esteem by kind of like just giving a little bit more conscious attention to the things that you have overcome, that you are succeeding in, the cool things that you've brought into your life.
Another thing that comes to mind is just relating to people. I do think that my sense of self can be negotiable with the groups that I'm in. And in the past, I've seen that as like maybe a negative thing, but I also see it as an empathetic thing. And if I'm in the right groups of people who support me, I have a very strong sense of self that I really love. So I think being aligned with groups who love me, who see me, who support me, who know my journey, and I can go to when I get shut down, who can help rebuild that self-esteem.
Okay. I love that. That's really good. Okay. And so you kind of answered our last question, which was to identify something that you can do today to make those two things, which was connection and self-esteem, feel more secure and impervious to threats.
I think that goes into reaching out. Like I said, I haven't been reaching out lately, and I think just doing better at reaching out to my friends and being the initiator of connection. So it's almost like a practice. Like I know how to do it when things are shut down or chaos ensues or I'm overwhelmed. If I know to build community, initiate connection, people into my life, like I'll be able to do that subconsciously because I've been practicing it.
Yeah. That's really good. I like that a lot. Having it that simple as far as like, okay, well, what if I'm feeling insecure or vulnerable to the fear? What is something that I can do to give me a sense of control to make me a little bit more impervious to the fear? And so I think those are great. Yeah. Well, that is lovely. Okay, so that takes us to the final card, which is a really complicated step. It's to take a deep breath. So yeah. Cool.
Well, thank you.
Well, thanks, Sierra. That was awesome.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, I'm so down. It's important to always follow up introspection with integration. 3 insights from today's session that Sierra might carry forward. First, you can find joy in any path that you choose. What matters most isn't which path you choose, but just that you make a choice and that it's made for you. Second, this is your decision to make, and it's a big one. But that's not a burden. It's a chance to exercise your autonomy and your power, so own it. Third, keep up that healthy amount of anticipation by balancing it with fun. The horizon ahead of you is exciting, but don't take for granted how much meaning can be found where you're currently standing. That's the work. That's the method. We'll see you next time.